Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us.
Yeah, welcome back.
Today, we're going to be looking at self-control,
Yes, we are.
and specifically for people with ADHD.
That's right.
We have some really good material today from Attitude Magazine and Thriving with ADHD.
Lots to dive into.
So we're going to kind of synthesize these and pull out the most important points to help you guys understand how to improve your self-control, given all of the, unique challenges that ADHD presents.
Absolutely.
So first off, why is it so hard?
Right.
To have discipline with ADHD? Like, what is it about ADHD that makes discipline so difficult?
Right.
The Staying Disciplined with ADHD article really kind of breaks it down and says it's not about a lack of willpower.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding what's going on neurologically.
That's right.
Have you ever heard of executive function?
Oh, yeah, executive function. It's like the control panel of your brain.
Oh.
The part that helps you plan and prioritize and, resist those tempting impulses. And so with ADHD, that control panel can be a bit glitchy sometimes.
Oh, okay.
It's like trying to run, a complex program on a computer with an outdated operating system.
Yeah.
Things can get a little messy, right?
Yeah, that's a great analogy because it's like, I feel like my to-do list is constantly buffering.
Yeah.
And my brain is just clicking on every pop-up ad that comes.
Absolutely.
That distracts me. And then the article also mentioned dopamine dysregulation.
Yes.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Absolutely. Dopamine is so important.
Yeah.
For motivation and reward and for people, neurotypical folks.
Yeah.
They get that dopamine release when they achieve a goal or complete a task. But with ADHD, the dopamine system's a little different.
Okay.
You can kind of think of it as, a friend who's easily bored, always seeking the next thrill. The routine tasks like paying bills or organizing files, it just doesn't give them that same rush.
So you're saying my brain is the friend who's like down for anything adventurous and spontaneous?
Exactly.
But can't stand, waiting in line at the DMV.
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect analogy.
Oh my God.
That ADHD brain.
That is so true.
It craves novelty and instant gratification.
Yes.
So when it's faced with those like everyday tasks that require sustained effort and focus.
Right.
It's like asking your friend to sit through like a 3-hour lecture.
Oh, gosh.
On the history of tax forms.
Yeah.
I
would die.
Their brain is going to be screaming for that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And it's going to make it much harder to stay engaged.
That makes so much sense because those mundane tasks just feel like pulling teeth.
Exactly.
Because it's like my brain isn't wired for that.
Exactly.
It's wired for excitement and novelty.
You got it.
Then we also have emotional dysregulation.
Yes.
And how that plays into self-control.
Yeah. And that's a big one with ADHD. Emotional intensity is common.
Absolutely.
And those feelings of, frustration, boredom, excitement, they can be amplified. So it makes it harder to manage those emotions effectively.
Right.
You can kind of imagine like having a volume knob.
Yeah.
For your emotions. And with ADHD,
yes,
that knob is turned up a few notches higher.
Yeah. It's like playing emotional whack-a-mole and they're all popping up with like extra force.
That's a great way to put it.
And I'm just like, I can't handle it.
Yeah.
And then the article, Staying Disciplined with ADHD, also mentioned time blindness.
Yes.
And I feel like I never really quite understood this concept before.
It's one of those things it's easier to understand through experience.
Yeah.
But for many people with ADHD, time can feel very fluid.
Right.
And very abstract.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't understand time conceptually.
Right.
It's more that it's really difficult to grasp the passage of time in a concrete way.
Right.
So deadlines can really sneak up on you. And future consequences can feel less real because they seem so far away.
Right.
So it's almost like your internal clock a little bit wonky.
So it's not just that I'm bad at estimating how long things will take. It's like time itself is fuzzy for me.
Exactly. And that fuzziness can make it really challenging to prioritize tasks.
Right.
Or stay motivated when the rewards seem so distant or intangible.
This is a game changer for me, honestly, because it's not just like, oh, I'm bad at this.
Right.
It's like literally I experience time differently.
Yeah.
And then we have, on top of all that, the overwhelm, which we all experience. But I feel like it's particularly potent with ADHD.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's like you have a million things to do,
but
you don't even know where to start.
Exactly. And it's almost like
paralyzing.
Your brain is a web browser with like dozens of tabs open, all vying for your attention.
Right.
You can't process it all.
Yeah.
And so you end up feeling frozen or paralyzed
Yeah.
by the sheer volume of everything.
Okay, so we've laid out some of the core challenges.
Yeah.
And again, it's not about blaming ADHD. No.
It's just recognizing that it's different.
It creates different playing field.
Yeah, it's a different playing field.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about some solutions.
Okay.
From the Attitude article, How to Increase Willpower.
Okay.
I thought the first step was really interesting, which is notice urges when they arise.
Oh, yeah.
Which sounds simple enough, but
It's harder than it sounds.
I'm guessing there's more to it than that.
Absolutely. So much of it is about cultivating mindfulness,
Okay.
which is essentially the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. So instead of mindlessly reacting to an urge, like grabbing your phone the second it buzzes, you pause and observe that emotion driving that urge.
Right.
Like feeling anxious or bored or stressed or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just becoming aware of that feeling can really help you detach from it.
Right.
And gain more control.
So it's like hitting the pause button
Exactly.
on that autopilot reactor.
Exactly. That pause creates a space for you to make a conscious choice. Yes.
Rather than just being swept away by that urge.
I like that space for conscious choice.
Yes.
It's like giving my brain a chance to catch up
To my impulses. Got it. And that brings us to step 2.
Okay.
Which builds on that concept.
Okay.
Which is practicing waiting.
Oh, delaying gratification?
Yes.
That is tough.
It's a tough one, but it's so worth it.
Especially with ADHD.
Especially with ADHD.
Ah.
But it's a skill that can be learned
Okay.
and strengthened with practice.
Okay.
You know, we live in a world of instant gratification.
Right.
We can order food,
Yeah.
buy clothes, connect with friends,
Right.
all with a few taps on our phone.
Which makes it so much harder to resist.
Exactly, because the reward is so readily available.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Even delaying gratification for a short amount of time can make a big difference.
Okay.
So let's say you have the urge to buy something online. Instead of clicking add to cart immediately, try waiting 24 hours. You might find that the urge fades.
Right.
Or that you realize you don't actually need that item after all.
Okay.
It's like giving your brain a chance to cool down and make a more rational decision.
The article had a great line about this, that every time you follow through on an intentional act and resist impulses along the way, you build new brain circuitry.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like rewiring your brain for success.
That's like working at your willpower muscle.
Yes, exactly.
Right, each time.
One delayed gratification at a time.
Exactly.
All right, on to step 3, focused activity.
Okay.
This one's all about finding activities that truly captivate your attention and bring you a sense of calm.
Yeah.
So it could be, mindful hobbies like knitting
or drawing,
playing music,
or
even more active pursuits like gardening or hiking.
Yeah, I love that.
I love how they emphasize finding something that arrests the attention and satisfies the soul.
Yes.
I find that getting lost in a good book is like
Oh, me too.
the ultimate.
It's bliss.
Yes. What about you?
You know, I find that just spending time in nature really helps me clear my head and feel more grounded.
Yeah.
There's something about being surrounded by trees and fresh air that just calms my mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but, the key is finding what works for you.
Right.
What makes you feel present and engaged and in flow.
Yes. It's like finding those pockets of calm amid the chaos of life.
Exactly.
All right. Step 4. This is right up my alley.
Okay.
Reward yourself.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about this.
This is where it gets fun, right?
Yes, because remember how we talked about the ADHD brain and how much it loves dopamine? Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Rewards are how we tap into that.
Yes.
And create positive reinforcement.
You got it.
It's about celebrating the small victories.
That's right.
Even if it's just finishing a task that you've been putting off or resisting a tempting impulse.
Yeah. I love how they say, think like a dog trainer, not a drill sergeant. It's not about punishment.
Yay.
It's about positive reinforcement.
Yes.
So instead of beating yourself up for every slip up, focus on rewarding yourself for the progress that you're making.
Right.
And it could be something as simple as taking a break to listen to your favorite song after finishing a challenging task,
Right.
or treating yourself to a special meal
Yeah.
after a productive week.
Love it.
Just little things like that.
Okay, final step.
Yep.
Make peace with your impulses.
Yes.
Ooh, I feel like this is big
It's huge.
for long-term success.
Absolutely. It's all about cultivating self-compassion,
Okay.
recognizing that you're not going to be perfect
Right.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
Everyone makes mistakes. It's how you handle those mistakes that matters most.
So it's not about denying the impulses. No. It's about learning to manage them.
Exactly.
In a healthy way.
Exactly. So instead of getting caught up in that cycle of shame and self-criticism, when you slip up, try to approach it with a sense of humor and understanding.
Okay.
The article even suggests saying something humorous to yourself when you catch yourself giving in to an urge.
Like what?
Something like, "Ooh, there you go again, checking your phone for the 100th time today."
Right.
But, with a playful wink at yourself, not in a, mean way.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the pattern, but without the harsh self-judgment.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've explored some really powerful strategies for increasing willpower from this ADHD article.
Yeah.
But now let's shift gears a little bit and look at this improving self-control excerpt from Thriving with ADHD, which I think takes a little bit of a deeper look at how self-control actually works.
You got it.
And offers some really practical tips tailored for ADHD brains.
Absolutely. And, one of the most crucial steps, and often the biggest hurdle for folks with ADHD is simply pausing.
Pausing. My brain is already like, no. It's like my default is go, go, go.
Yeah.
And hitting the brakes feels almost impossible.
Right. But it's so important.
But I am familiar with that impulsive reaction where I'll say something without thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Or make a decision without considering the consequences.
It's so common. The ADHD brain is often wired for quick responses, which can be a strength in some situations.
Right.
But when it comes to self-control, that impulsivity can lead us down some tricky paths.
Yeah, for sure.
But here's the good news. Pausing is a skill that can be learned.
Okay.
And strengthened with practice.
So how do you practice pausing?
Yeah, so the article offers some great strategies.
Okay.
Something as simple as taking a deep breath before responding to a question or making a decision can create that much-needed pause.
Okay.
You can also try visualizing yourself staying calm and collected in a challenging situation.
Okay.
So imagine that inner pause button and practice pressing it whenever you feel that urge to react impulsively.
I like that visualizing the pause button.
Yes.
Because it makes it feel more tangible.
It does.
And actionable.
Yeah.
The article also mentioned paraphrasing what someone said before responding.
That's a fantastic technique.
Which I thought was brilliant.
It forces you to slow down.
Yes.
Process the information and ensure that you're truly listening.
Right.
Rather than just waiting for your turn to speak.
Right.
And speaking of slowing down.
Yes.
The next step in building self-control is cultivating self-awareness.
Oh, this is so important.
It is so important.
But also maybe a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Because how do you even begin to understand your own brain?
It's a journey, not a destination, right?
Yeah.
But it starts with paying attention to your patterns, your triggers, and your most effective coping mechanisms. Okay. So you know what situations tend to bring out your impulsive side, what strategies have helped you stay focused and on track in the past.
Okay.
So it's really about understanding yourself.
I'm realizing that I have a terrible habit of checking my phone.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I hit a snag in my work.
Yeah.
It's like my brain just needs that little dopamine hit.
Yes.
Of distraction.
Absolutely.
And before I know it, I've lost like an hour on social media.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example of a pattern worth noticing.
Okay.
And once you become aware of these tendencies, you can start to develop strategies for managing them.
So instead of just beating myself up for getting distracted, I can use that awareness to be like, okay, how do I prevent this next time?
Exactly. And that brings us to the next step, pre-planning.
Okay.
So this is where you take that self-awareness and you turn it into actionable steps.
So it's like anticipating those situations where I might struggle and having a game plan ready.
Exactly.
Yep.
So let's go back to your example of getting distracted by your phone. While you're working, a pre-planning strategy might be putting your phone in another room or using an app that blocks distracting websites for a set period of time.
Right. So it's not just about willpower in the moment. It's about setting myself up.
That's right.
For success in advance.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, and visual cues can be a huge help with this. The article talks about using reminders of your goals, your values, or even just motivational quotes to keep you focused.
So instead of relying on my memory, which is notoriously unreliable,
Yes.
I can create like visual reminders that will stick.
Exactly.
I've been meaning to make a vision board forever.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Maybe now's the time.
Visualizing your goals can be so powerful.
Yeah.
Especially for that ADHD brain.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm adding that to my to-do list.
All right.
We talked about self-compassion a lot.
Yes.
But the improving self-control excerpt really emphasized it as well.
It's so important.
It's like this recurring theme of self-discovery.
Absolutely. And it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because self-control isn't about being perfect. It's about learning and growing from your mistakes.
Right.
Beating yourself up for every slip-up only adds to that stress and negative emotions.
Yeah.
Which can actually make it harder to manage those impulses in the future.
So it's about being kind to yourself?
Yes.
Even when you mess up?
Absolutely.
Which I have to admit is something I still really struggle with.
It's a common struggle.
My inner critic is loud.
It takes practice to quiet that inner critic.
Yes, it does.
But remember, everyone makes mistakes. And those mistakes are opportunities for learning and growth.
Okay.
It's all part of the process.
I'm taking a deep breath and reminding myself to be gentle with myself.
Good.
Okay, so now let's move on to our final source, which is the Staying Disciplined with ADHD article, which I think has like even more practical
nitty-gritty tips
that we can use.
Absolutely.
To actually implement all this stuff.
I think this article is going to provide some great insights.
Awesome.
And actionable strategies.
Awesome. I'm excited to dig in.
Me too.
But before we do, I want to hear from you guys.
Yes.
Our listeners, what's resonating with you so far?
Yeah. What are your biggest takeaways from this initial exploration?
Let us know in the comments or on social media.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you.
And we'll be right back after this to delve into the next layer of this fascinating topic.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, we are back and ready to continue our deep dive into self-control with ADHD.
Yes, we are.
Now we're looking at improving self-control from the Thriving with ADHD website.
Right.
And this one seems to really break down like the nuts and bolts of how self-control works.
Yeah, it does.
And offers some really practical tips that are specifically tailored for ADHD brains.
And one of the most crucial steps, and often the biggest hurdle for people with ADHD, is simply pausing.
Pausing?
I know, right?
It sounds so simple.
It does.
But I can already feel my brain resisting.
Right.
It's like my default setting is go, go, go.
Yeah.
And hitting the brakes just feels impossible.
But it's a skill that can be learned.
Like, how do you practice pausing? It seems so counterintuitive to like everything my brain wants to do.
Well, the article offers some great strategies.
Okay.
Something as simple as taking a deep breath.
Okay.
Before responding to a question or making a decision can create that much needed pause.
Yeah.
You can also try visualizing yourself staying calm and collected in a challenging situation. So imagine that inner pause button. And practice pressing it whenever you feel that urge to react impulsively.
I like that. Visualizing the pause button because it makes it seem more tangible and actionable.
It does.
The article also mentioned paraphrasing what someone said before responding, which I thought was brilliant.
It's a fantastic technique.
Yeah.
It forces you to slow down, process the information, and ensure that you're truly listening, rather than just waiting for your turn to speak.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And speaking of slowing down, the next step in building self-control is cultivating self-awareness.
Yes, this is so important.
Ooh, this one feels big.
It is big.
But maybe a little intimidating because how do you even begin to understand, you know, the inner workings of your own brain?
Well, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
True. But it starts with paying attention to your patterns. Your triggers, and your most effective coping mechanisms. So you know what situations tend to bring out your impulsive side.
Yeah.
What strategies have helped you stay focused and on track in the past.
Okay.
So it's really about understanding yourself.
I'm realizing that I have this terrible habit of checking my phone every time I hit a snag in my work.
It's so common.
I think my brain just seeks out that
like the dopamine hit.
Yes, the dopamine hit of distraction. And before I know it, like an hour's gone by and I'm just scrolling on social media.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example of a pattern worth noticing.
Okay.
Right. And once you become aware of these tendencies, you can start to develop strategies for managing them.
So instead of just beating myself up for getting distracted, I can use that awareness
Exactly.
to create a plan.
That's right. And that brings us to the next step.
Okay.
Pre-planning.
Okay.
This is where you take that self-awareness and you turn it into actionable steps.
So it's like anticipating those situations where I might struggle and having a game plan ready.
Exactly. So let's go back to your example of getting distracted by your phone while you're working.
Uh-huh.
A pre-planning strategy might be putting your phone in another room.
Okay.
Or using an app that blocks distracting websites
Right.
for a set period of time.
So it's not just about willpower in the moment.
Exactly.
It's about setting myself up for success in advance.
That's right.
I like that.
Yeah, and visual cues can be a huge help with this too.
Okay.
You know, the article talks about using reminders of your goals, your values, or even just motivational quotes.
Yeah.
To keep you focused and motivated.
Okay, so instead of relying on my memory, which is, again, notoriously unreliable,
Yes.
I can create like visual reminders.
Exactly.
It will actually stick.
Exactly.
I've been wanting to make a vision board forever.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Maybe now's the time.
Yeah, visualizing your goals can be so powerful.
Yeah.
Especially for the ADHD brain.
Okay, I'm adding that to my to-do list.
All right.
We've talked about self-compassion a lot.
Yes, we have.
But the improving self-control excerpt really emphasized it as well.
It's so important.
It's like this recurring theme throughout this journey.
Right. And it makes perfect sense.
Right.
You know, self-control is not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about learning and growing from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Beating yourself up for every slip-up only adds to the stress and the negative emotions,
right,
which can actually make it harder to manage those impulses in the future.
Right. So it's about being kind to yourself even when you mess up.
Absolutely.
Which is something that I admit I still struggle with a lot.
It's a common struggle.
Yeah, my inner critic can be pretty harsh.
Oh, yeah, mine too. It takes practice to quiet that inner critic.
Yeah, it does.
But remember, everyone makes mistakes, and those mistakes are opportunities for learning and growth.
Okay.
It's all part of the process.
All right. I'm taking a deep breath and reminding myself to be gentle with myself.
Good.
Okay, so now let's move on to our final source,
Right.
which is the Staying Disciplined with ADHD article.
Okay.
Which seems to have like even more like practical,
Yeah, it does.
nitty-gritty tips.
Nitty-gritty tips that we could apply to everything we've learned so far.
Awesome. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, too.
Okay, so let's keep this momentum going with that final article, Staying Disciplined with ADHD.
Yes, let's do it.
This one I really liked because it had a lot of really practical, like, nitty-gritty tips that I think can make a real difference. And it all starts with creating structure.
Yes, structure is so important for anyone trying to build self-control.
Right.
But for those with ADHD, it can be a game changer.
Yeah.
You can think of it as like building a scaffolding for your brain.
Okay.
It provides that external support and organization that can help you stay focused and on track.
So instead of constantly having to make decisions about what to do next, that can create a framework that sort of automates those choices.
Exactly. And routines are a fantastic way to build that structure into your day.
Okay.
The article suggests starting each day by reviewing a planner or to-do list.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just a simple way to prioritize your tasks.
Right.
And set intentions for the day.
I've tried to-do lists in the past, and I always get so overwhelmed by like the number of things on there.
Oh yeah, I hear that a lot.
Like any tips for that?
Yeah, well, the article suggests using the 2-minute rule.
Okay.
So if a task can be completed in 2 minutes or less, do it immediately.
Oh, I like that.
It's a great way to prevent those small tasks from piling up and becoming a source of stress later on.
It's like a little mini victory every time you check something off.
It is.
And then for bigger, more daunting projects, they recommend breaking them down into smaller, more manageable steps.
That's a classic strategy, and it works wonders for the ADHD brain.
Yeah.
Instead of staring at this mountain of a project and feeling paralyzed, you create a series of smaller hills that feel much more achievable.
Yeah, it's like turning a marathon into like a bunch of sprints.
Exactly.
And I love this. They mentioned using visual cues here, too.
Yeah, those are so helpful.
Like write each step of a project on a sticky note.
That's a great idea.
So you can focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, love that.
Okay, I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
Me too. So that's speaking my language.
So helpful.
Okay, now speaking of motivation, let's talk about rewards.
Oh, yes.
We've talked about this a little bit.
We have.
But the article really emphasizes how important this is for the ADHD brain.
Especially for the ADHD brain.
You know, they talk about pairing a less exciting task with something rewarding.
Oh, yeah, that's a great strategy.
Like listening to a podcast while you're doing chores.
Oh, I love that.
Or, you know,
I do that all the time.
getting a special coffee after a productive morning of work.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite ways to reward yourself?
You know, I love that you mentioned podcasts because that's one of my go-tos.
Yeah.
I also find that taking breaks to do something physical, like going for a walk or doing some yoga, can really help me recharge.
Yeah, movement's so important.
So important.
For ADHD brains.
Yeah, like hitting the reset button on your focus.
Exactly. Okay, so we talked about creating structure, breaking down tasks. Yes.
Leveraging rewards.
Yes. Well, it also talks about the importance of eliminating distractions.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Which can be a major challenge for anyone.
This is huge for me.
But especially for people with ADHD.
I feel like I'm constantly battling distractions.
Oh yeah, me too.
It's like my phone and social media and just like...
The laundry?
Yes, the laundry that needs to be folded.
It never ends.
Any tips for like winning this battle?
Yeah, well, the article recommends identifying your biggest kryptonite.
Okay.
That one distraction that really throws you off track.
Okay.
And then creating barriers to access.
So for me, it would be my phone.
Yeah.
I've heard of those apps that you can get.
Yeah.
That block certain websites or apps.
That's a great idea.
For a certain amount of time.
There's so many tools and technologies available now that can help you stay focused and on track.
Yeah.
The key is finding what works for you.
Right.
Integrating it into your routine.
Yeah.
Make it a habit. Awesome. And then the article also emphasized the importance of accountability.
Yes. Accountability is huge.
Yeah.
Having a support system can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
It could be a friend, a family member, a therapist, or even an ADHD coach.
Right.
Someone to check in with, share your goals with.
Yeah. Just to have that extra support.
Yeah. And encouragement.
It's like having a cheerleader.
It is.
In your corner.
Rooting for your success.
I love that. Okay, so to wrap things up today, guys.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did.
We explored the unique challenges that ADHD presents.
Right.
To self-control. But more importantly, we've uncovered a whole toolbox of strategies.
Yes, we have.
To help you work with your ADHD brain.
Not against it.
Not against it. So we talked about understanding how your brain works.
Right.
Cultivating self-awareness.
Yes.
Creating structure.
So important.
Leveraging rewards. Eliminating distractions. Finding support. And most importantly, practicing self-compassion.
Couldn't agree more.
Right.
Yeah. It's about finding what works for you.
Right.
Experimenting and being patient with yourself along the way.
Beautifully said. So my final thought for you guys is, what is one small change that you can commit to today to improve your self-control?
Yeah. What's one thing you can do?
It could be, you know, as simple as setting a timer for 5 minutes of focused work, practicing a pausing strategy before you react.
Love it.
To a stressful situation, or identifying your biggest distraction and creating a barrier to access.
Great idea.
Remember, even the smallest steps can lead to big changes over time.
That's right.
And we would love to hear about your journey. So share your experiences, your challenges, your triumphs.
Yes, please do.
In the comments or on social media, we are all in this together.
We are.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep believing in your ability to thrive.
That's right. See you next time.